Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kind.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearald, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And all the way from Australia today, I have Douglas Charles Hodgson. And welcome, Douglas, to High Road to Humanity.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for having me on your podcast today. And warm greetings from Western Australia to all of your viewers.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited, you guys. He's here. This is a really interesting work. It's called a new book he has out. It's called Transcendental Spirituality, Wisdom, and Virtue. Easy for me to say. The Divine Virtues and Treasures of the Heart. This is what it looks like. And let me kind of just preface this and give you guys an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. So what he's done is, and this is really interesting, and I can't wait to hear your story. He's gone to 12 different religions, and he's looked for the most identifiable ethical principles that they all hold. I guess that's the best way I can say this. And he calls them the 36 divine virtues. Okay, so he calls them the universal ethical principles, which actually form the foundation of the world's great religions. And so what he's done in this book is, as we go through, there are 36 different principles, and then he gives what the Christians think about it. What do the Islams think about it? How does it apply to Hinduism? So it's so cool. I mean, you even did Confucius, and I was just, this is just awesome. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get into it, this is High Road to Humanity, you guys. And I want to mention, just came across the news, and it's interesting how divided the country is right now. So I pulled two different headlines because we have that much of a division. One headline says, statement from President Joe Biden on Supreme Court decision on student loan relief. And if you haven't heard, I'll read just a little bit of this. The fight is not over. I will have more to announce when I address the nation this afternoon. So he talked this afternoon, but he says, my administration's student debt relief plan would have been the lifetime tens of millions of hardworking Americans needed as they try to recover from a once-in-a-century pandemic. It says nearly 90% of the relief from our plan would have gone to borrowers making less than $75,000 a year, and none of it would have gone to people making more than $125,000 a year. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't agree with what he's trying to do, but I got to get both sides of the story. So the other headline reads, what happened now that Supreme Court struck down Biden's students loan handout scheme? The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down the Biden administration's $400 billion student loan bailout in response to a legal challenge by Job Creators Network Foundation. This ruling sets the stage for long overdue bipartisan action to address the underlying reason for this debt crisis. Unaccountable colleges that have raised tuition by more than double the inflation rate over the last generation. And that's pretty much it. I'll give my 2 cents, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say, Douglas. But, you know, here's the deal. A lot of us, middle class, and I can speak for myself, when I was in school, my dad was an engineer, but he didn't make enough for me to go away to college. But he made too much for me to get any kind of assistance. Interesting, isn't it? So I made my way and I did my thing. Now I actually became a real estate broker, very successful, but it goes like this. So the people like me who became real estate brokers, I should pay my tax dollars towards the person who decided they were going to be an attorney. Is that how we should do this? The other thing is, what really bothers me about this is that it makes people think it's okay that you can take out a loan and you don't have to pay it back. It's the idea of the give and the take. It's just take, and no give. And there has to be balance, and there is no balance. And people don't work so hard when they think they don't have to pay it back either. And the sad part is, I've seen a lot of kids, and I won't mention any names on the show today, that have taken this money and just lived on it and not gone to school and just used the money to buy a motorcycle or to party or to live or to just function, so they didn't have to work. I've seen a lot of that too. So I'm really happy about this. Charles, I don't want to spend a whole, Douglas, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but what do you think about this?
Well, Nancy, I don't like to interfere in the domestic politics of another nation.
Oh, come on.
Having said that, I think that if the Supreme Court of the United States had made its decision based on principles of social justice, which I'm familiar with as a human rights lawyer, or I used to be a human rights lawyer. If they had made their decision, and obviously it was a complicated one, on the basis of a number of the divine virtues that I outline in my book, query whether the decision would have been different. I think that's as far as I'll go on that one.
Okay, all right.
Very complicated issue, but I don't like to pass judgment.
I don't like to pass judgment, but I do think you should pay. If you take out a loan and you sign a paper that says you're going to pay it back, then you should pay it back. Because that's, it's like when you buy a house or you buy a car.
A contract is a contract.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's how that works. And so that's my deal on that one.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Douglas Hodgson. He is a dual citizen of Canada and Australia. He's a retired lawyer and a dean and a professor of law residing in Perth, Western Australia. He undertook postgraduate legal study at the University of London before embarking on a 35-year career in higher education in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand as a teacher, a researcher, a scholar, an author, a human rights law, international, humanitarian law, civil law, and causation law. Professor Hodgson has authored and published 30 peer-reviewed law journal articles and 4 books. And we're just really glad you're here. Now, I want to know, here's the big question. How did you decide, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to look at all the religions and see what they all have in common, and then put them all down in a book?
Well, there are a number of reasons, Nancy. What motivated me to write my book relates to what life is all about. What is our mission or purpose on earth?
Okay.
I believe that we are here to learn, to acquire knowledge of the divine and godly wisdom. Essentially, I'm interested in questions that few of us have time really to think about deeply. We are so busy and so distracted as individuals in these times that we don't have time to ponder the larger metaphysical questions of life. But essentially, how can I become a better person? How can I purify my soul? How can I elevate or evolve my soul consciousness? How can I embrace more positive energy in my life and mitigate the amount of negative and destructive energy in it?
Right.
How can I place less importance on superficial external beauty and develop so-called inner beauty or spiritual wealth? So with those questions in mind, I thought I'm going to delve into the Holy Scriptures of some 12 religions: Baha'i, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, Judaism, Shintoism, Sikhism, Taoism, Zoroastrianism.
I know. I was like, what is that?
Well, Zoroastrianism and Baha'i are really from ancient Persia and modern Persia.
Okay.
But I looked at Eastern and Western religions and philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
and I was astounded by the similarities between them. And I was able to identify some 36 what I call divine virtues or universal ethical principles, which bind these religions together like an ethereal mortar.
Mm-hmm.
These principles provide the spiritual, moral, and ethical foundations of these religions. And if we apply these principles in our daily lives, we will achieve that. We will become a better person. We will elevate our consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, that was the first motivator for my writing this book.
Okay.
The second reason is, and it brings us back to the point that you were making earlier, discussing the Supreme Court decision. In my view, at least, humanity at this state, at this period of time, is quite fractured, fractious, and fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
Political bipartisanship, political goodwill, the voices of moderation, the so-called middle ground, striving for the overall good of the community. These things have all collapsed
Yeah.
and been replaced by what I would call the politics of division, negativity, fear, hatred, extremism, and polarization.
Yeah. A little greed in there too.
And this is very sad
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And of course, we are constantly reminded that we live in an age in which we should value diversity and difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. I get that. And I don't quibble with it. But it seems to me that humanity has forgotten all about the other side of the equation. And it's failed to focus or concentrate on what unites us, what brings us all together, what unifies us.
Mm-hmm.
We are all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
As individuals, we are interconnected with God, with nature, with this planet, with the animal kingdom, with all of the processes of nature.
Right.
And we don't realize that.
I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us are waking up to the fact that, we've gotten so far away from God. But I'm going to say something that's a little bit off, but I'm going to just be honest with you. I think all this has been intentional to throw us off from being so connected with the divine, because when people start to realize that we are powerful energy beings who do have this connection with the divine, and we do have ways to create a different life, I think it's almost like it's good and evil. Like they want to divide us, they want to separate us. But I think what's happening, I'll just throw this out there, is that it's making more people think and stand up and wake up and realize. What do you think about that?
It is, Nancy. I would describe the era that we live in as an age of ignorance. It's really unconscious separation from God.
Yeah.
But I believe that there is an awakening.
Mm-hmm.
There are many light workers out there
Right.
that I believe are on board with this.
Right.
And I'm only one small cog in a machine that hopefully will bring light and goodness to the world. But yes, the negativity, the negative and destructive forces and energy out there, it's remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to stand up for what we believe and to reinforce that connection with the divine.
Right. And that's it. That's really it. It's just as simple as that. It's as simple as getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth and then connecting with God. It doesn't take that long to do it. You know what I mean? And that's my biggest push. And I want to get into your book here, but that's my biggest push, is to get people to realize that we can connect. And when you do, you become more joyful and more balanced and
Yes.
just everything changes, like your whole life changes, because we're supposed to be connected to the creator. You can say God, you can say source, you can say divine. It doesn't matter. It's the energy that we're like these little computers that have to plug in. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We,
And that's,
we, uh, as Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within us.
yes.
We all have the divine spark in us.
Yes.
We have to maintain that conscious connection
Yes. That's
and,
it.
and
It's just
channel that
connecting.
energy.
Yes.
Joy and gratitude are two of the highest vibrational energies, and we
I
need
love.
that in our lives.
Yeah, look, I want, okay, if you don't mind, I picked out, I'm so excited about this book, you guys, because it's really interesting. It's really cool that you did this. It just kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow, nobody's ever done this. I picked out a few, you can see my notes here. Different, because there's 36, so we can't go through all of them. It's only an hour show. But I wanted you to address some of these. Is that all right? Can we do that?
Oh, that's fine, Nancy, yes.
Okay. All right. The first one I picked out, chapter 3, was greed and envy. And you say envy, discontented or restless feelings arising from witnessing another's perceived success. And I wrote down, I pulled a couple out. So the Buddhists say any possession that increases the sin of selfishness is nothing but a drawback in disguise. I thought that was interesting. And then Islam says humanity covets gold and silver, pleasures by the present world, but God has the excellent nature with him in paradise. And that's what everybody forgets, right? Talk about this.
Well, how my book is intended to work is that it's meant to be a source of daily spiritual nourishment and personal growth. And what I would encourage any readers of my book to do is to make some me or quiet time, preferably at the end of the day,
Okay.
go into a nice quiet room and reflect on how the day has gone. How did it go? Did anything upset me during the day? For example, I might have gone to the shopping center and gone on a shopping binge and purchased much more than my needs require.
Okay.
Or I could have dined out and had 2 helpings rather than 1, or 3 glasses of wine rather than 1 glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example where I overindulged.
Mm-hmm.
I was greedy.
Right.
So if that's the case, why did you do that? And consult my chapter on the absence of covetousness and greed, and also the chapter on self-control. Read the commentary and the supporting scriptural references, and that will assist you to understand human nature and how you can rise above that and be more controlled.
Well, we have become a very greedy society. We really have. I want to bring this up. And people are, it's maybe because I'm older, I've gotten past a lot of this stuff. But, when you're young, you're envious of what everybody else has. And I think as you get older, you grow out of it. But some people never do, I guess.
Well, life is replete with temptations and distractions.
Okay.
And there's a movie line, I think, from a Michael Douglas movie, Wall Street, greed is good.
Yeah.
But actually, most of the world's religions consider greed to be one of the deadliest of sins.
Mm-hmm.
Readers, I think this becomes apparent as you get older and hopefully wiser.
Yeah.
But things that you can see with the eye, material things or possessions, they may give you joy and satisfaction and happiness in the short term, but in the long term, you will not find peace and contentment with all the possessions you own. What the eye can see is really of no lasting value.
Right.
What the eye cannot see is valuable beyond comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Peace and contentment come from within.
Mhm.
It comes from within.
Mhm.
It comes from developing spiritual treasures of the heart.
Right.
And as Confucius once said, and I think I've mentioned that quotation in my book, with rough rice to eat and water to drink, and one's bent arm as a pillow, one can still be contented. So many people are deceived by that. That is what I call an illusion or delusion of this world, that material things, professional accomplishments can somehow bring you happiness. They do in the short term,
Right.
but it's very ephemeral, very transitory. The lasting treasures are those that you develop from within you.
Right. Very well said. I have to say, honestly, for me personally, and I teach the audience this, but connecting with the divine every day, I have a relationship with God. We're friends. I talk to him every day. You know, we have our thing going on. He knows what am I going to do about this? And what am I going to do about that? You know, and when you do that, you become fulfilled. You don't worry that somebody else doesn't love you because you know God loves you because he does, or she, or whatever you want to say. You also brought Mother Earth into this, and we'll talk about this too. And I'm really glad you did. I'm going to just touch on a few of these because I think it's such a fabulous book. One that I picked out actually with hatred and desire for revenge. The reason I brought this up is, I'm not perfect. And there's been times in my life where I have thought, well, I just will wait and see when they get theirs. And that's not the way to be at all. But we all go through that. And I wrote down in Christianity, it says, love your enemies, bless them who curse you. Be good to them who hate you. And what I've realized, and I want you to expand upon this, it's taken me this many years to figure this out. But when you love people back who hate you, you stop that energy, that negative energy.
Yes.
You know, it's taken me a while to figure this out. Talk about this, man.
That verse that you refer to can also be found in Buddhism. So it is also a principle of Eastern religion.
Right.
Unconditional love is, as you would know, is the highest vibrational power or energy in the universe.
Right.
And if you encounter someone who is cursing you or exhibiting aggression towards you, and you return that with love, loving kindness, you totally disarm them. And I think there's a scripture in Islam, it's in my book, that if you bless your enemy and treat them with loving kindness, they will become your friend.
Isn't
And
that interesting? I wrote
yes,
down the one that Taoism says one should respond to hatred with kindness. It's all the same, isn't it? Isn't
it's
that
all the
interesting?
same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hatred and aggression are very powerful forms of negative energy,
Mhm.
but they cannot trump unconditional love. Unconditional love supersedes all, including those very strong negative and destructive emotions.
Right. And when you tell somebody this, it's really hard for people who aren't to this point to wrap their head around. You tell somebody to love their enemies, they just look at you like you're nuts. But
Exactly.
we all have to get to this point
Exactly.
where we realize that it's about the energy, because if we take it on, then we take it on. If we accept it, do you know what I mean? If somebody is
You
nasty,
attract it to you. It's
yes,
the law of attraction. If
yes,
you manifest unconditional love towards someone,
yeah,
they'll absorb that and they'll
yeah,
return it to you.
yeah,
If you manifest hatred and aggression and ill will to someone, that will be returned to you. That's like a law of the universe.
absolutely, yeah. And all these things are everything that you put in here, and all these little things that from all the different religions, to me, is universal law.
I would like to think so. I believe that. I firmly do.
Yeah.
And
I do
another
too.
very important chapter in my book, which I think will really elevate one's consciousness, is the exercise of self-control,
Oh,
self-restraint.
okay.
I mean, that is part of not retaliating when you're provoked.
I know it's hard. You have to
Mhm.
really be,
It is.
it takes more to
Yeah,
be cool.
exactly. It's instinctive to humans to retaliate in kind. But
Yeah,
if we want to elevate our consciousness, we must, first of all, begin by controlling our thought processes. You
absolutely.
have to self-edit. So
Mm,
if you purify the upstream, if you cleanse your mind and gain control over your mind, that will produce good thoughts, good words, and good deeds.
yes,
That's in
yes.
my chapter on self-restraint or self-control.
That's huge. And it's huge because because we all have to reprogram ourselves because we've
Mm.
all learned things from different people or parents or partners in our life and we repeat it. We keep telling that story over and over until we start to realize that we're telling the same story. And in order to change the story, we have to change it in our minds and our words, right?
And that is so difficult to do,
I
Nancy.
know.
So hard to control the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I was thinking about. So I had an email yesterday from somebody, and it was kind of a sharp little snippy email. And years ago, I would have went right back and snipped back, but I thought, nah, it's cool. Just let that go. And it's a matter of it's an evolvement. It takes time. It takes practice and working on yourself. You know, to get to,
Absolutely.
you
It
know,
has to be done on a daily basis.
I know
You have to incorporate it almost as a part of your daily routine.
Yes, yes. And as far as you're talking about thinking, what I'm doing now, and I just tell the audience this because I really want people to learn this stuff. So what I've been doing now when I get a negative thought or something from the past that I don't want to really think about anymore, because I believe that sometimes somebody else is thinking about it and we're like antennas and we pick it up. And so what I've realized is when that thought comes in, bring myself back to the present moment, bring myself
Mm.
back to here where I'm at. And that to me, I don't know if that helps anybody out there, but it's been working.
Actually, I have a chapter in my book on living in the present moment.
Right? You do?
Essentially, you can't undo the past, so
Right.
there's no point in worrying about it.
Right.
We have very little control over our future,
Right.
some but very limited.
Right.
So enjoy the preciousness of the present moment
Right.
and divest yourself of all of those negative memories and energy.
Yeah. Let it
Mm.
go. Well, I want to talk about charity. You do a chapter on charity, and you know, this is something that I feel like people, oh, my cat must like you because she just jumped up here.
I
um,
have 2 cats and 2 dogs.
that's probably what it
Mm.
is. Uh, it feels like charity has become almost like a business. And that's not what charity is supposed to be. Charity is supposed to be given to somebody because they really need your help. I see such a large, I don't know what's happening over there in Australia, but here there's a huge homeless population. And there's a huge divide. It's the wealthy and the poor. And the middle is really
Mhm.
it's getting to be where there is no middle, you see.
Right.
And I'm more concerned, and when I think about charity, I think about the homeless, the people sleeping on the street right now, because there's such a divide. What's going on
Mm.
there, and what can you talk about as far as charity
It's
goes?
it's very much the same in Australia,
Okay.
Nancy.
Okay.
Um, the homeless problem is growing within Australia, which is really counterintuitive because Australia, in terms of natural resources and the service industry, is quite affluent. And as you say, charities have become big businesses,
Yeah.
including in Australia.
Mm.
And if you watch the television, especially around lunchtime, you'd be amazed at the amount of advertising the charities are undertaking. Well, all that's well and good, but that costs airtime. And if you look at the amount of salaries and administrative costs that these charities typically have,
Nonprofit.
very little trickles down
Yeah.
to the people who need it.
Right.
But charity is in two forms, in my reckoning. It's not only material charity in terms of covering our need for clothing, shelter, and food, but spiritual charity as well. And when you give charity, you have to do it with the right attitude, with the right frame of mind. You must thank God for giving you the means to be able to make that act of charity,
Right.
and pray that it will go to the neediest, and
Right.
thank God for the opportunity to do so. But the social and economic gaps are widening in Australia, and it's a source of concern for many people here.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Baha'i?
Yes, Baha'i.
Okay. So I wrote from there, they say charity is believed and acceptable before God and is accounted the chief among all good deeds. And I believe that. I think people have forgotten about, I'll just say, when you give, don't make a big deal out of it. Don't tell everybody. That's what I've learned. And the other thing I've learned is to give. I don't give to big organizations anymore. I give locally. Like I'll give to the local animal shelter, or I'll give to the local homeless shelter. But I don't give to the big organizations so much anymore, because I hate to say it, but like you said, they're running these big ads. So if they're running these big ads, then where's the money really going,
I like what you said, Nancy, there. You give your charity discreetly and in private. You don't make a big show of it.
Right.
I mean, the Holy Quran refers to the concept of small acts of kindness, and they mean so much to God. So if you pass by a homeless person and you're aware that they're there, but you pretend you don't know that they're there and you ignore them, contrast that with passing by and a kind word and a small donation in their begging bowl or their cap. That's a true instance of charity. Those small acts of kindness, those are what really matter in the higher spiritual realms. And what we consider important to us in this earthly realm are relatively meaningless in the higher realms.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, is that whatever we do down here makes a difference, because it determines what happens to us after this life, because there is life after this. And I think that it always blows my mind that people think they can take their stuff with them, number one, and that and that if they were important down here but they didn't do any good for anybody, they think they're going to be important up there. And it's such a misconception. It just blows my mind that, come on, we're intelligent enough to know this. How did we become such a society that we're not all trying to get to heaven, and we're not trying to make our place up there instead of trying to make it down here? It's just crazy, isn't it?
Well, Nancy, I mentioned that in my book several times. It's from scripture.
Yeah.
And essentially, if I can sort of summarize it, when our soul leaves our physical body, it cannot take anything with us.
Right.
We have to leave behind our home, our money, our
Yeah.
material possessions, our family, our friends,
Right.
our careers and professional reputations. But one thing we are allowed to take with us is the love that we have manifested towards others.
Right.
And that is ours to keep for eternity.
That was beautifully said. Yeah, it's I wrote this down. As far as Islam goes, righteousness is this: to give of one's wealth for the love of God to kinsmen and orphans, the poor, the traveler, the beggar, and to those in captivity, people who really need it. That's the problem. Everything's backwards right now. It's just like it says in a lot of these scriptures. I wonder what you and I didn't read that part. Do you talk about end times where everything's backwards, topsy-turvy, where we're not given to the homeless, we're just the rich get richer? I mean, did you address that? Yeah.
That's a great question, Nancy. In my book, I did not talk about the end times,
I had to
but
throw something at the cat. I'm sorry.
that's okay. My cat misbehaves sometimes too. But in terms of what I hope to accomplish in writing my book, I tried to make it somewhat of a moral and ethical compass,
Yeah.
because we do live in an age when truth is dismissed as deceit and falsehood, and untruth or misinformation and lies are afforded respectable plausibility.
Yeah.
So each day we are bombarded with so much information from the mass media, from the internet, and we as individuals have to process this.
Mhm.
And not all of what we're hearing is accurate or complete or true.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that my book and the 36 Divine Virtues will assist readers in making that determination, in separating the truth from worldly illusion and delusion.
I hope so too. I really do. That's why I do the show, to try to get people to understand that there's a different way to go. You talk about faith. Faith was a hard one for me. It took a while. Years ago, I learned about faith. But faith is believing in what you can't see. Buddhism says the wise do not befriend the faithless. That really hit me too, because years ago I would have, if somebody would have said I don't believe in God, I would have still been their friend, and now I don't. Not to be judgmental, but just it changes things. Talk about this.
Well, you've put it very well. Faith is the belief in something that we cannot objectively prove.
Right.
But I believe that God is all around us in our daily lives. We just have to look harder.
Mhm.
But faith is a very personal thing. But if you have faith and you have a strong, unshakable foundation, life will be much easier for you. And I've
Yeah.
done some research in the area of near-death experiences as well. And
Okay.
it's fascinating because those who have undergone a near-death experience and come back from beyond the veil and written about what they experienced and what they were told, they actually say that not only was my faith in God confirmed, but I now know it for a certainty.
Mhm.
So my certainty of knowledge has now superseded my former faith, because whereas now before I believed, now I know. And it's remarkable because even avowed atheists who have had this experience have returned and said, there is a God, and I
Yeah.
know for certain.
Yeah. I haven't had a near-death experience, but I've had so many things happen that I know. I just know. I know for sure. I don't have a doubt. There isn't a doubt in my mind. And it didn't come from dying and seeing the veil. It came from every time anything ever happened in my life, God always has picked me up and taken care of me, and made sure I was good. And after that happens so many times, you start to have faith that there is a higher power, that there is a
Yes,
force higher than us, beyond us. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And I read your website, Nancy, and I noticed that you have connections with angels
I do.
and Archangel Gabriel.
Gabriel.
And
Yeah, yeah.
this is a clear manifestation of God's presence in our lives.
Yes.
To be, if we intend for angels to help us, and if it's our intention and desire for them to help, they will.
Right.
And many
You have to
people
ask.
don't realize that.
Yeah,
And
you
it's
got to
another
ask him.
manifestation of God. It's proof of God's existence. That has happened to be many times in my life when I've been assisted by my guardian angel.
True. That's true. Me too. And now, I mean, and once you start doing this, and I'm so thrilled that you put this together for people, because once you start understanding a lot of these different spiritual principles, and again, it's not one religion, it's across the board, it just evolves. You get, I didn't always channel Gabriel, it's just, it's been an evolvement, and as you connect more with God, you get messages. That's why, I'm psychic, I'm intuitive, but my messages are coming from God. But everybody's psychic, everybody can connect, everybody can get the wisdom that is in the higher realms if they want to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everybody can do it. If you don't have, there's nothing special about me.
They have to desire it and they have to be determined, because
Yes.
the spiritual road is a long and twisting and winding one,
Yes.
and it takes time. You have to develop patience.
Yes, that's true. I want to talk, God, there's so many things in your book. I have to say, one thing you wrote, I gotta mention this. This is the only part you talked about the Native Americans, where, and what was this about? You talked about Mother Earth. You were talking about respect and reverence. It was in chapter 23, actually. And I wrote this down. And you talk about Mother Earth and they say, treat the Mother Earth and all living sentient beings that dwell thereon with respect. And to me, that's been the biggest thing that we've lost, is respect for each other.
Yes. Yes. The planet Earth, or Mother Earth, is our mother. It's our source of sustenance, nourishment. It gives us our orientation. The flora and fauna of nature must be protected, but we exploit it. As a result of greed and rapaciousness, we exploit the planet Earth, and there will come a tipping point, and I think that is soon coming. We must have reverence and respect for all life, for all life is sacred. And God, my belief, and the belief of many religions, is that we can find God in nature, in natural phenomena, that trees and plants, shrubs, animals, they have consciousness as well.
Right.
We are all one. We are all interconnected. We depend on each other for survival and growth and nourishment. And if any of those things are out of kilter, we all suffer. If we harm another, or if we harm the environment, we are harming ourselves. And I don't think many people understand that. So we have to protect the Mother Earth. It's almost like a pantheistic philosophy that God is not only in us, but is also in nature.
Right.
And if we destroy or tamper with nature, we're upsetting the balance to our peril.
Yeah, very well said. I don't know where I saw this or read it or heard it recently, that the birds, when they sing in the morning, the vibration of their song helps the flowers bloom and grow.
I can believe that.
And
Yes.
I was like,
Yeah.
and to me, that was such an aha moment, because everything's energy, right? And I thought, wow, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. The first thing in the morning, the birds sing. Well, then the flowers, well, yeah, okay. And we don't look at things like that, but that's really how it works, We're never taught these things like when we're children. My hope is that we teach our children these things when they're young. Wouldn't it have been great if we knew a lot of this stuff when we were younger? You know what I mean, Douglas? What do you think?
Absolutely, Nancy. I have to say that the indigenous spiritual belief systems have much to say on this.
Oh, cool. What are they?
The wisdom of the ancients and the elders
Yeah.
Native American Indians, Australian Aboriginals or Indigenous people,
Mhm.
known about these things for millennia. In Australia for 60,000 years, they realize how important Mother Earth is to humanity and to our survival and growth and nourishment. And they respect and have this wonderful relationship with the planet Earth.
Mm,
But in the West, we've lost that by and large.
mm,
There are many conservationists and environmentalists who are aware of these things,
mhm,
as the indigenous elders are. But we have to educate more people on that. I agree with you.
mhm. Yeah, if people understood it, we're not taught properly, and it's almost, again, I'm back to the part where I just feel like the people in charge don't want people, the average person, to know these things. But I'm thrilled that so many people are waking up to these facts, and that's the hope that I have, that there will be a change,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely, Nancy.
Mhm.
In my research, I came across two statements. One was from Václav Havel, who's a famous Czech statesman. I believe he's now deceased,
Okay.
and also Albert Einstein. And both of them said essentially the same thing, that for humanity to learn from its mistakes, it must have a revolution in human consciousness.
Right.
Because if that revolution in human consciousness or that collective awakening does not occur, then according to the old Chinese proverb, we're going to end up exactly where we are now headed. So I think these are critical times for humanity. And I congratulate and applaud people like yourself and many other light workers who are trying to educate or enlighten or awaken ordinary people to
Right.
these things.
Right. And that's what it is. It's thank you. And you too. Thank you. Every little light that goes on. I talked to a lady. I'll just tell you this really quick because it gives me hope. I talked to a lady and she was channeling, they called themselves this beings of light. And
Mhm.
I had her on my show, and asked them about what's happening, and they told me that more and more lights are going on consistently. More and more people are waking up. More and more people are seeing the truth. So I do have hope.
Mhm.
And I believe we'll make it. I believe we're going to get there. And I believe you and I are going to be part of this. And all the cool people that have, like you said, all the light workers out there who are, everybody contributes a little bit.
I share your optimism, Nancy. All of us can make a contribution. And
Yes.
even if we think it's a very small or modest one, it will make a difference.
Yeah. Just being kind.
Mm.
Just being decent and nice and kind. We got to get these things back. I'm so
Yes.
glad you came on the show. How long did this take you? This is one of my questions. How long did it
Well,
take you to put this together?
it took me about a year and a half to research. I retired about 5 years ago. So
Okay.
I left behind the secular law, so to speak, and became
Okay.
interested in the divine law.
Right.
So in the first year and a half or 2 years of my retirement, I did nothing but read the sacred scriptures of the world
Wow.
religions.
Wow.
And it took me about 6 months to write it. I almost had like a stream of consciousness going.
I bet.
I was aided by my guardian angel, actually, because
Okay.
every time I hit a roadblock or a mental blank, please help me with the sentence or this word. And it just flowed like that. So I wrote the book in about 6 months, which is relatively quick, I think.
That's very quick.
It just
You
flowed
downloaded a
so
lot of it. Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So you work with your angels too. See, that's awesome. And we all have guardian angels. And I want to say that. And everybody can work with their angels. You just have to recognize them, right?
Exactly. Many people don't realize that they have a guardian angel.
Right.
but we have at least one, possibly more.
Right.
And if you are aware of their existence and you want them to help you, they will. But they
Yes.
will not intervene in your life unless you ask for it.
Right.
That's part of the laws of the universe.
Exactly.
But I've been aided by my guardian angel countless times. And like yourself, I'm in regular contact.
Yeah, she's right
Not
here.
not to the same extent as you. You are truly gifted. I don't
Well,
have those gifts, but I'm on the same page with you in terms of angel energy.
angel energy. Well, I'll just tell you, I came in as an angelic soul. And so because of that, I think that's why I have such an attachment. And I work with her every day. I ask her everything, not everything, but hey, what do you think about this? And she tells me, and it's good. And sometimes you don't want to hear it, to be honest with you. But I'm really glad you put this together. I want to know, how has it been received there in Australia? Have you had a lot of people, read it and give you wonderful?
It actually hasn't been released yet, Nancy. It's
Oh,
due for release in Australia in late August.
okay,
It was
we're
released,
early then.
yeah. It has been released in America. It was
Okay,
released on May 26th.
okay,
And it was
okay,
released in the United Kingdom and Europe on May 26th.
okay.
In the first 5 days of its release, it sold quite well,
Wow.
according to the royalty statements. But I'm
Oh,
not concerned. Well, I am concerned about the sales and royalties
right,
because, as I said, charity is about rendering material and spiritual assistance to people.
right.
And if my book sells well, which I hope and pray that it will,
Yes,
then I'm hoping that that will render spiritual charity to people, to awaken them or enlighten them. And
yes.
all proceeds from my book, in terms of royalty payments, will go to charities,
Wow.
including the homeless charities and charities for the welfare of animals. Because, like yourself, I love animals and I'm concerned about the welfare. So I hope to do both material and spiritual charity through the sale of my book.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. I want to bring something up real quick that I don't think I've ever talked about on the show, but I want people to know that when you do this kind of work, God takes care of you financially. I just want people to know that, because you don't have to worry. I think a lot of people worry, and I don't. God takes care of us just like he takes care of the birds and all the animals and everything. And if we could just get past the part where we're concerned and just trust,
Yes. Well said,
then
Nancy. I
yeah,
put everything into God's hands, and
yes,
I believe, I trust.
yes,
I
yes.
have no worry or anxiety.
No,
Will be what will be. Yes.
yes, it is how it's supposed to be. I'm so glad. What do you want to leave us with today?
Uh, sort of the key takeaway messages from my book, I suppose. Looking at the world's religions, if I had to summarize them in a very concise aphorism, I would say they're all about the golden rule. As Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's recognized in other religions. I learned from my researches that unconditional love is the parent of all other divine virtues. And the
Mhm.
Holy Scriptures are meant to help us build up positive energy in our lives and to avoid the negative and destructive energies and emotions. We are here to love and serve God by assisting others, both materially and spiritually.
Mhm.
It's very important, as I said before, that we purify the mind, good thoughts, good words, and deeds. And it's very difficult to do, but as best you can, detach from the ways of the world and the
Yes.
illusions and delusions.
Mhm.
Focus not on the material or physical possessions or gifts, but try to accrue treasures of the heart, or
Mhm.
spiritual treasures, or the inner beauty, because that's what the soul will take with it when it departs the physical body.
Yeah. That's where the treasure lies, huh? Within.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sure does. Oh, I'm so glad you came and joined us today. Douglas Charles Hodgson's, and he is
Yes.
here today from Australia visiting us. Wonderful book, Transcendental Spirituality, Wisdom and Virtue, the Divine Virtues and Treasures of the Heart. I'm so glad you came on the high road today. I hope you'll come back again.
My pleasure, Nancy. Thank you so much for having me on. And
Yes,
congratulations on your good work and your light work
thank you.
and working with people who wish to be enlightened and inspired. Well
Thank
done.
you. I appreciate that. If you guys want an angel reading, just go to my website, nancyyearout.com, or if you'd like me to speak to your group, I'm doing some speaking events, and you can get on my website and check that out too. All right, guys, I want everyone to have a fabulous 4th of July weekend. Everybody be safe out there. Take care and God bless.
Hold your head high, the world is coming. Watch the colors lift your soul. Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the